Welcome to Automation Hunter, the podcast for entrepreneurs and businesses ready to scale smarter. In this series, Apps, Hacks, and Bounties, your host, Will Christensen, dives into game-changing tools and strategies alongside special guests, sharing insights to boost productivity and solve real business challenges. Ready to innovate? Let's dive in.
All right, everybody, welcome to this episode of Automation Hunter. I'm your host, Will Christensen. I have Kyle Becker here. Kyle, tell us who are you in the world of business, in the world of family? Who are you in the world? And I know that could take like an hour, but can we get the summarized version? If that would be great.
Yeah. I'll try not to be too long-winded. Kyle Becker. Will, thanks a lot for having me on your podcast.
Yeah.
I grew up in West Virginia. Like kind of out in the sticks. When I didn't do too well in school, kind of came from, not a great background. There's some bumps in the road growing up, and I dropped out of high school when I was 17. I went to a military reform school, kind of something you would see on TV. It was called a Challenge Academy, the Mountaineer Challenge Academy. And it was a 6-month program. You got your GED, and that enabled you to join the military, without having to wait for a quota to open up, without having to wait on a list. So that's what I did. I joined the Marine Corps in 2003, and I did 12 years on active duty. And the majority of the time I was in the Marines, I was in this sort of data gathering unit called reconnaissance. It was Marine Recon. And it was our job to, kind of in a nutshell, to sneak out in advance of the main effort. The ME is what we call it, the big Marine Corps, the infantry unit, the whole, they call it MAGTF, Marine Air Ground Task Force. So we would go in advance of that and, scout everything out while trying not to get caught in these about 6 to 8 man teams. So we'd have to collect data about the environment, roads, streams, the foliage, and also, the enemy, right? So our objective normally was some enemy compound, building, whatever, and we would go there and observe the objective, for a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, and get all the data points we could, consolidate them in reports that meet the commander's critical information requirements. I think that's what they were called. So we had to get information and distill it to a level that is, most useful for the commanders, the decision makers, so that way they could maneuver their troops in such a way that would be most effective. And so there's a lot more that could go into that. We had to be trained in a whole range of skills to enter into the mission, whether we were diving in or skydiving in or just fast roping or maybe just vehicle insert. And then on the objective, sometimes we would have to do like a sniper initiated raid, right? In which we would take out a sentry or an high value target, right before the raid force would come in. We had a process of doing that as well. So, got to do a lot of range of really cool high speed training, but it was demanding, and I got older and I had kids, and as awesome as it was, being in recon, I was like, man, this sucks. I need to get out,
As awesome it was, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it was. I think a lot of veterans guys, even guys not in infantry or special operations type jobs would relate to. It's the best and the worst time of our lives. You got to do a lot of exciting things, meet great people, travel places you normally wouldn't have the opportunity to. Doing anything else, but there's a trade-off for that. You're away from your family, you're away from your country, everything you're familiar with. So and sometimes the people are dicks, so a lot of egos, a lot of type A personalities. I'm not a type A personality. So I got out and I moved to Dallas, Texas, where I live now. And I went to college. I did both an undergrad and an MBA.
Okay, so I have to ask you a question.
Sure.
What did being in the military, like you now do AI consulting, right?
Right.
What did being in the military, the rapid response, the training, like you just described, taking out sentries and HVTs, like I do that in Call of Duty. So like, like you're like an idol at some point for me.
Oh,
Looking at some of that, I think that's really cool. So
thanks.
what, knowing all of these things, what did you take away from it that you were like, oh my gosh? And we're gonna use this as the hacks portion of our episode. So we're skipping apps, hacks, and bounties. That what
Yeah.
would you say is a hack that you brought to your business
Yeah.
world from your training there?
Well, it's all right. It's hard to like point at one singular thing. So I may touch on a few things. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, what you may expect me to say is, I'm able to, operate and stay calm in high stress situations. And,
That seems like something I would expect you to say. Yeah.
right. But, I've always been kind of a worrywart, to be honest. I've always been kind of a stress ball. And dude, wait, I'll tell you, this is going to sound ridiculous, but in a lot of ways, the exams and the deadlines that you go through in university, or even like when there's a project deliverable due, that can be a hell of a lot more stressful than jumping out of a fucking helicopter, or I don't know why, dude, but just
Wow.
people are like depending on you to get this done at a certain time. Like I would rather be skydiving, I'd with a rucksack on, and O2 and everything else. Um, so I've actually had to go. I don't know, maybe this is oversharing, but after leaving the Marine Corps, I actually got into counseling. Like I have a regular counselor who I see to do things like manage to cope
I
with
love it. Yeah.
anxiety, you know, because it's a whole new world that I'm
Yeah.
not prepared for. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and kids, and
Yeah.
you can't treat your kids the same way you treat the people who are not
Yep.
performing in the
Pet girls.
military, and you've got, there's a whole new ball game that you're having to play there.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I have two daughters. I don't have any sons. You cannot talk to your daughters the way you talk to a Marine. That's for sure. So,
No.
um,
No.
unless you feel bad. So yeah, I've had to learn a lot. But to answer your question, um, what hacks, I've got from I'm very focused, and I want to know, okay, what are my deliverables? What are the deadlines? And work backwards from there to achieve those deadlines. There's no excuses. I mean, you can make mistakes, and that's fine. And
Right.
we adapt and we learn from those mistakes. But
Right.
one of the things, this is something my brother says, who's a Marine as well, a lot in the sort of the tech culture is to fail fast, fail forward, fail often. That's not really something you would hear in the Marine Corps. Like you don't just assume failure. Like failure is bad. Like you can make mistakes, but you do everything you can to not fail. Like you're dead before you fail, right? So I know that sounds a little extreme, but with the team that I manage now, we work real well together and we try to have like really good work-life balance, but we don't fail. We don't give up. Like if there's an objective, everybody, works together to achieve that, like on time and within budget. So that's one thing. Having a bit of sense of urgency, a healthy sense of urgency, we'll say, is something I brought from the military, and also being organized with my team. And I've noticed a lot in the tech and startups, people are really bought into this sort of Zaps. What is it? Zappos?
Zapier.
Not Zapier. I'm actually talking about
Oh.
Zappos. It's a little bit earlier where
Oh, you're
the
talking about
shoe
Zapier's, Zappos with the
Zappos.
shoes, and
Yeah.
like sell it before you actually have a business kind of thing, validate the idea.
Well, what I'm thinking of is the management structure where they have no managers. It's flat. It's entirely flat, and they call it holacracy. There's a book written on it, and I just think that's utter bullshit. I think there's like manager. I've noticed in the tech industry is almost a dirty word. Like no one
Yeah.
wants to be a manager,
No.
and I get like we don't like dictators. We don't like people micromanaging us. But what a good manager does, and no, I'm not even talking about a leader, but what a good manager does is he or she gets you the information you need to be successful, right?
Yep.
They make you aware of the deadlines and the objectives. They make everything clear. They organize the folks in the team so there's not duplication of effort. When you have just a flat organizational structure, I've noticed there's a lot of duplication of effort, and there's a lot of people who are just not mature enough to perform in that environment. They become the gray man and they just assume someone else is going to pick up the slack. It's a lot of times it's human nature. So I'm fine with a healthy sense of with a healthy amount of hierarchy, right? As long as you don't have tyrants, as long as everyone in that hierarchy cares more about the mission than they do their own personal objectives. You
I
know what I
love it.
mean? Their own
I love
personal
it.
agenda. Yeah. So
So we are definitely turning this into a part two episode. And in that part two episode, we're going to talk about your bounty, and we're
okay.
going to talk about your app. Tell
Hmm.
me, but before we get you on that part two episode,
Sure.
what genre is your bounty in terms of the biggest challenge that your AI consulting firm is facing right now?
I would say sales and CRM. Yeah, like nothing too fancy, but
Is it like I need more leads, or is it I need to close more I have plenty of leads, but close more deals? Which part of the pipeline is the bottleneck in?
well, we're of the philosophy of marketing gravity, right? Which is where we don't want to be like too active at knocking on doors and doing cold calls. Instead, we want our product, our service to be so good that we're actually attracting prospects and clients to us,
Got it.
right?
And
So
so not enough of those being attracted is the bottleneck, it sounds like.
yeah, I mean, we're still growing. Will,
Yeah.
that's part of the reason I'm on this podcast as well, is to make people aware of that, we're out there and this is what we can do.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love
I
it.
mean, that's where we're at in our journey right now. It's,
Kyle, it's been a pleasure. I'm super excited about
oh,
this. We're out of time for today, but
yeah.
we're going to do a part two episode, and we're going to dive right in on your app. And I now have a bounty for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go look through my repertoire of apps. 10 years of hunting and looking at all sorts of different softwares and platforms. And I'll
Hmm.
bring a couple of them to you that
Appreciate it.
I'm hoping you haven't heard of, but I'll be curious to
Yeah.
see with another AI expert if you've come across these yet. So,
Wonderful. I look forward to it. Thanks again,
okay.
Will.
Appreciate your time, and we'll have you on for a part two episode.
Sounds great.
All right. Talk to you soon.